Well, Mr. Tapp, I know you were born in 1932, and that your father came from Lafayette, if I understand
Lafayette,
correctly.
Georgia.
What brought him down to Acworth?
I really don't know, but he went to work in the cotton mill out here. Used to be Mason's.
Coates and Clark?
No, it
It wasn't
later
Coates and
become Coates and Clark, but
it wasn't. Yeah. Okay.
it was Mason's cotton mill.
Right.
And they made what they call a tobacco cloth.
Mm-hmm.
And he went to work in Mason's. I don't know what year, but then he met my mother. They got married, and she went to work for Mason's. This was back in, as far as I can remember, back in the 30s.
Right. Now, where did your mother come from originally?
She was from Cherokee County.
Okay. What brought her over to Acworth?
I really don't know that.
Okay, so did you grow up in the mill village?
Till I was about 10 years old, 9 and 10 years old.
Well, why don't you tell us about the mill village? What was it like being a child?
Well, I remember the houses. They were all board houses. The boards run up and down, and they had a strip on them, and they're all painted green.
Okay.
The whole village was painted green.
Because the company painted them?
Company painted them.
Okay.
And
are the houses a lot different then than they look today, other than the color?
they have changed them several times over the years, really. When they went to work, and we moved into the mill village from the country. We moved into the mill village, and they changed all of the houses, took the strips off, and put a weatherboard, what they call a weatherboard on the side, and painted them all a cream color. All of the houses were cream color. Then later years, when Coates and Clark bought it out, they came in and left all the siding on and put an asbestos siding on top of all that. So the houses had I know of three different sidings on it.
What was it like to be in the mill village? Did you go to the Eli Whitney School?
I went to Eli Whitney School from 1 to 4, fourth grade. That was far as it went. It was made especially for the mill village, the school was.
Oh, it only went through the fourth grade?
Fourth grade.
Did you feel that you were prepared when you went on to the fifth grade? Did you go on to Acworth?
Well, while I was in the fourth grade, of course the war started, and we moved in the house with my grandfather and grandmother out in Cherokee, just right out of town here. And a school bus came by. I went to Oak Grove School.
Oh, okay. What was that like at Oak Grove School?
Oh, it was a big school. I think we might have had maybe 20 or 30 people in our room. Of course, that school, it taught the first and second, third and fourth, fifth and sixth. Had 2 grades in each room, and one teacher taught both grades.
How did that work out?
It worked out good. I enjoyed it.
So the second, when you advanced to the next grade, you had heard it all before?
No, we moved out there in mid-year, and I was in the fourth grade, and Miss Martha Chapman was my teacher. She taught fourth and fifth, and Then when I got to the 6th, she changed classes and went to the 6th and 7th. And her husband, Clarence Chapman, he was principal of the school. And he taught the 8th and 9th grade. And that's as far as that one went. So after the 9th grade, I come to Acworth. We had a student driver that drove some of us to Acworth.
So you went to Acworth for high school?
Yeah, Acworth. And it only went to 10th grade. Wasn't no 12 grades back then. And
there wasn't an 11th grade?
No. 10 grades. And I dropped out in the 9th grade, went to work.
Okay.
That
so,
was my
so that was in the middle of World War II?
Yeah.
What, talk a little bit more about the Masons. Do you remember them at all?
Not very much about it. I didn't know that it was what they call a Mason's cotton mill. And the salary, my mother and father, I hear them talking about it, they made $17.50 a week.
Each one of them or together?
Each one of them. And of course the house rent came out of that. And they had what they call a company store on Main Street. And that's where we got our weekly supply.
Whereabouts on Main Street?
It's right where the transmission shop.
How big a store was it?
It was a big company store.
Did you have a credit line at the store?
Yep. Yeah, we'd go down there and get whatever we wanted. They'd put it on the book, and at the end of the week, they'd take it off of their paycheck.
At an interest rate?
No, I don't think they charge the interest.
Really?
Just whatever you got, that's what you paid for.
Mm-hmm. So that was a nice service then, I guess. Were the prices the same as you would have paid at Piggly Wiggly?
Actually, it was cheaper, I guess, there than anywhere else.
What else did the company provide for the workers? Were there any playgrounds or ball teams or anything like that?
No, we had all our activity. We had to come to Acworth, what we call the flats up there, for our ball games and activities.
So you went to work somewhere in the early 40s, is that right? Oh, that can't be right, can it? It must have been late 40s.
Yeah, I went to work for Jack Dempsey's body shop down here where Privet Shopping Center is now. I had a car at that time in 1940 Ford. We were riding my girlfriend around, learning her how to drive, and she just automatically ran it in a ditch and flattened out the fenders on the right-hand side. So I carried it up to Jack Dempsey to get him to straighten my fenders and paint them. And he says, I don't have time right now, but I'll show you how, and you can do it. So he showed me, picked up the hammer and dolly and showed me how to beat out the fenders, smooth it up. And he painted it for me. And after I got it done, he put me to work.
So that was your first full-time job?
1949, I believe it was, 48, 49.
Okay, so you're like 16 or 17 years old?
Mm-hmm.
And that's your first full-time job then?
Yep, that's full-time.
Well, it sounds like he was a nice man.
Jack was a good guy.
Can you talk about, was he a native of Acworth?
Yes, he was.
How long did you work for him?
I worked for him till 51 or 52.
And then you got drafted, or how did
my brother, he got drafted in the Army, and he came out and took body training. And he and I went together and set up a shop at what we call Boone Service Station, down here where Acworth Automotive is right now. So they give us the basement of the station, and we set up a body shop. And we were there about 6 months, and the Army called me, 1953.
Well, I was thinking that was pretty good timing on your part, I guess, because the Korean War was coming to a close about that time.
It came to a close while I was in basic training.
I imagine you were happy about that, weren't you?
Yeah, they told all of us we were going to Korea after training, but when we finished our training, they shipped me to Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
So you spent your 2 years in the Army at Fort Campbell?
No, I was there about 5 months. They cut me order to go to Germany. And I stayed over there for a while, and they gave me orders to come back to the States. And I went back to Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and got reassigned to Fort Benning, Georgia, and got discharged at Fort Benning.
Well, you saw most of the bases in the South then.
Yeah, I did.
What was it like in Germany in the early 50s?
Well,
It wasn't that long after World War II.
there was still a lot of blown out buildings and bridges and everything. They were working on it.
There were some scary moments with the Cold War in that period.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, can you talk about them at all?
Well, it wasn't too much going on over there at that time. I think they call it occupied Germany, and we stayed in the German soldiers' old barracks, which was 3 stories, had 3 different companies in each building.
So you spent your 2 years in the Army and then came right straight back to Acworth after that?
I came back to Dallas. We moved to a little place called New Hope, and I went to work for the Ford place. Mm-hmm. And I stayed there for about a year. And Jack Dempsey got me and said, I want you to go back to work for me. So I went back to work for Jack Dempsey.
So about 1956?
Yeah, 56, 57. And I worked for him for, I forget what year. But the James Houston in Marietta, he had a ambulance service, repair ambulance service, wrecker service, and a body shop. And my brother had gone to work for him, and he got me a job down there, and I went to work for them for, about a year. And Jack came back and got me, put me back to work for him.
Now, when did you start your own company?
1970.
Now, you mentioned a little bit earlier when you were talking about New Hope that you said we went over there. So I guess you were married at that time?
Yeah.
When did you get married?
I got married in 53.
Before you went
Just
into the
before
Army?
I went into service.
Okay. And so your wife went with you to Germany and all those
No, she went with me to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, but she didn't go to Germany with me. Came back, and we rented a little place over in New Hope, moved over there.
When were your children born?
Ooh. I can't remember dates. we lived in New Hope when my son was born, and we lived there when my first daughter was born. But then we came back to Acworth, and my second daughter was born here in Acworth.
Why don't you talk a little bit about what Acworth was like in the 1950s? Was there probably wasn't a lot of traffic on Main Street compared to today, was there? Or maybe there was.
Up until 1950, 293 was the main road, 41, and everything from the north to the south came through Acworth.
Okay, so there was a lot of traffic.
A lot of traffic. I can remember on a Thanksgiving year, 1950, 51, they were building the 4-lane 41. And they didn't have it completed from Cartersville to Marietta. So the car that came from north was backed up from Cartersville to Chattanooga, getting off on a 2-lane highway. Almost 100 miles of backed up traffic.
So the opening of the new 41 made a big difference then, I guess.
1951. I believe that was the year they completed this leg of 41 and made it 4-lane.
That sounds about right. So
I believe that was the year.
50 or 51.
Yeah.
It was somewhere in that period. So at that time, how did that affect downtown Acworth when 41 opened up, since 41 bypassed Acworth?
Well, it killed it. Almost. The traffic wasn't bad. And then still local people, they turned out to Acworth on weekends. Everybody went to town on Saturday. Everybody.
Where would you go to on a Saturday?
Well, we had a movie. We had a bowling alley. We had a pool room.
Did you frequent those places?
Yeah, I went to the movies, bowling alley. I set up pins in the bowling alley, what we call duck pins. The short pins with a small ball. And I'd go in there and set up pins. I think it's about 5 cents a line across.
So you were getting paid to do that?
5 cents.
Okay.
For each player.
So you had the movie theater. You said the pool hall, didn't you mention?
Yeah. Later I'd go to the pool hall and play pool a little bit.
And where was that?
It was on the corner up here. I believe that's Lemon Street. Mm-hmm. They put a pool hall in there, which used to be the post office. Years ago, that was the post office. And they built a new one up there where the drugstore is now. Laces. Mm-hmm. They built a new post office there, and a guy by the name of Gravett, he rented the building and put a pool hall in the old post office. Then later year, they built the new post office down here on the other end of town.
So that was your entertainment in those days?
Mm-hmm. That was about it.
Why don't you talk about your family a little bit? Your wife was named Luella?
Luola.
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 Okay. Mm-hmm. Why don't you talk about her a little bit?
Don't know much to say about her. But I met her. I was working at Boone's service station down here, and she worked up in Cartersville at sold Easy Meals. They made T-shirts, and her brother Ralph, he come in and work part time at Boone's, and he'd go pick them up and take them home. His sisters, my wife, and her sister, and he'd pick them. He'd get off work and go get them. And his car broke down, and he got me to go pick them up one day. And that's how I met my wife. We dated for 6 to 8 months, got married.
Did y'all ever go to the beach in later in the
Oh yeah,
1950s?
yeah. We went to the beach after they built that down. That beach was built in 49.
Yeah, the dam was completed in 50.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's 50, 51, and that period
Yeah.
is when they were getting it started. I bet your children liked to go to the beach, didn't they?
didn't have no children
Well, later
at
on.
that time.
Yeah, right. But later on, I imagine they liked the beach.
Yeah, oh yeah.
What did you really think about Acworth in those years? Was it
Oh, it's no other place.
no other place?
No other place.
Explain why
Well,
that was so.
I don't know why I knew everybody. I mean, it was a small town, and everybody knowed everybody. You know, everything was simple. Not too many cars. I remember right where this place is used to be a livery stable.
Where City Hall was a livery stable?
Right, yeah. There was a livery stable here, and there was one up here where the Center Street Tavern is now, which was City Hall at that time too.
Now, when you say livery stable, is this because there's still a lot of horses and mules
Horses
with the
and
farmers?
wagons, and they sharpened plows and put shoes on horses, and that was the business.
Do you remember people bringing their cotton to the square? Were they still doing that when you were growing up?
Later years, we had a cotton gin put up down here where the Nibbles place had a cotton gin there next to Harold Hughes service station.
So the farmers would bring their cotton in there in the fall and to the gin, and then they'd take their bales of cotton, and would they come down Main Street to sell their cotton?
Most of them sold the cotton to the gin. The people at the gin would buy the cotton, and you give half of the cotton seeds to the people that own a gin for ginning their bale of cotton, and then they'd buy the cotton from you.
And then you'd keep the other half to plant for the next year's crop?
That's the way it was.
So this was a pretty rural area at that time?
Oh yeah.
Did you feel any prejudice as a part of the mill village when you were growing up, or did you feel just totally part of the community?
I don't know. I was so young. I don't know if I had any feeling for it or not.
Well, talk a little bit about your auto repair shop that you opened. You said about 1970?
Opened 1970, January 1st, 1970. I had 3 cars that I had taken in, and we we started out with that, and 30 years later, I never had a day that I went in that I didn't have something to do.
So you work on all kinds of cars?
All kind of cars. Then the people knew us. They'd go to the insurance after they have accidents, something or other. They'd request that we did the job. And
so you had your company from 1970 to year 2000?
2000. Well, my daughter and son, they ran it to 2002. And after I retired from it, they couldn't do as much with it as I did.
Why don't you talk about how the area changed from 1970 when you started your business to 2000 when you retired?
Like what?
Well, did business increase? Was the population growing?
Oh yeah. Well, we were so busy we didn't notice too much because we went in every morning and worked all day and come out at night, and we just had all we could do all the time. Never ever caught up.
Is Acworth the same place today as it was back then?
Oh no.
We'll talk about how it's different, or how it was different back then from the way it is today.
Well, there wasn't as many people. We didn't have subdivisions. Everybody owned their own house or rented out, away and not clustered up like it is today, and don't even know your own neighbors anymore.
So a lot of people have come in from other places.
All over.
Well, do you think that's been a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, the growth hadn't been bad. The economy, it built up the economy. More money came in. Till they started closing up all of the business, and then it didn't do too good.
You're saying about 2000, a lot of businesses were closing?
Oh yeah.
Now, why do you think that was?
The local people just couldn't compete with the chain stores on prices. We didn't have the chain store like Walmart, Home Depot, and the big companies like that. We only had a hardware to go to, grocery store.
So I guess McMillan's was gone by the time you were growing up, wasn't it?
What's that?
McMillan's, that used to be a department store on Main Street. I think that was long gone with the Great Depression, though. Where did you go to buy, if you wanted to buy a shirt, where did you go?
We went to Eaton Department Store here in Acworth. They were right on Main Street. Then later year they put up a big building over here where the medical building, I think it's a medical doctor building or something. But all your clothes and shoes, and you went to Eaton Department Store. And we had a hardwire, Johnny Green. Not a hardwire, but a 5 and 10 cent store. He put in a business up there where the hardwire used to be. And then the hardwire moved behind town here. Parker Hardwire. They built it, and it moved there where the livery stable used to be.
Well, I understand that you like bluegrass music.
Bluegrass music, yeah, I'm a big fan of bluegrass.
Were you ever a performer?
From 1962 till now.
Okay. What play a fiddle or what?
5-string banjo.
Oh, really? Oh, we should have had you bring your banjo today. Did you have a group that you performed with?
I played with several different groups over the years. We had bands and went to different places, and took up a lot of time, but I enjoyed it.
What kind of places did you go to?
Well, we played a lot of churches. We went to bluegrass festivals, private parties, Christmas parties.
Who were some of the people in the band?
The first band I started playing with was in 1960, I believe it was. 1960. There's a group from over in Aragon, Georgia, called the Cherokee Bluegrass Mountaineers. That was the first. We played around different places. And then can't even remember the other band, but played with several different bands. The last one I played with as a group was Mars Hill Porch Pickers.
Mars Hill
Porch Pickers.
Pickers? What does that mean?
I don't know. They called me and I played with them 3 or 4 times, and that was it.
What's your favorite bluegrass music, your favorite pieces?
I like them all.
Did you sing as well as play?
I didn't sing.
Okay.
No singing.
Okay. Could you make a fair amount of money working in a bluegrass band?
Oh no, it was all mostly for fun. Once occasionally we'd get a little donation, but not enough to buy the gas to get to the place.
About how many times a month did you perform?
A lot of time we performed every weekend. The one group I played with was Pine Log Mountain group, and I played with them. We kept a band together for about 8 years, and we went to a lot of different bluegrass festivals. It's a lot of playing. One especially I remember was one up in Virginia. Ralph Stanley, big name in bluegrass. We went to his bluegrass festival and played. We played Tennessee, Alabama, Florida, Georgia.
How did people hear about you?
Huh?
How did people find out about you?
I don't know. I didn't run the band. A man by the name of Ralph Clayton, he was the one that done all the booking, him and his wife, and they played in the band. And they would do the booking and we'd just go.
Did your wife go along with you when you went to these performances?
Oh, every time.
Did she play anything?
No, didn't play anything.
What do you miss the most about the way things used to be in Acworth?
Well, I don't know. I'm still pretty active in a lot of stuff, so I don't know what I would have missed.
I was thinking in terms of things that don't exist anymore that may have existed in the old days.
Well, visiting your neighbors is not like it used to be. We used to, at night, we would visit our neighbors, sit up, watch TV, talk, make ice cream, have cookouts. don't do that much anymore.
What about the churches around here? Have they changed much over the years?
Well, I go down to Kennesaw First Baptist occasionally. I'm not a member down there, but a friend of mine, she goes down there and I go with her. And she's real active in the church and Sunday school. We still go to Sunday school breakfasts and dinners and ice cream parties they have.
What do you think about the changes in the downtown area in Acworth in the last 10 or 15 years?
I don't know. I know I can come through at night now, and there's not a parking place in Acworth. I don't know what's bringing the people in, unless it's the restaurant. But even last night, I was going to have dinner up here at the Center Street restaurant. Couldn't find a parking place. I had to go out of town to have dinner. I don't know what's bringing the people in.
It's the restaurants.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I know the place is crowded every night. I can ride through and on Main Street you can't even find a parking place.
Well, I think I'm just about out of questions unless you want to tell us a little bit more about anything that interests you.
I enjoy the cruise-in they have up here every fifth Saturday, the auto antique car cruise-in. It's really entertaining, and I do have a few antique cars that I like to bring out.
Is that your hobby?
That's my hobby now.
Cars?
I'm still rebuilding antiques.
What kind of cars do you have?
Oh, I've got a collection.
Talk about a few of them.
Well, my oldest car is a 1927 Studebaker Erskine.
Okay.
And then after that, I've got a 31 Ford Model A Cabriolet. Got a 36 Ford four-door sedan. Got a 48 Lincoln Continental, 49 Buick Super, 54 Chevy Bel Air, 66 Mustang, a 68 Buick Riviera.
You must have a mighty big yard or a mighty big garage.
Well, they all on pavement, but all of them not under shed. They all been restored.
You have trouble finding parts for those old cars?
Not anymore. Of course, they sell the parts all the way from New York to California to Florida. If you got the money, you can find a part.
It doesn't sound like you ever sell them once you fix them up. You just keep
Occasionally I'll sell one and then replace it with two.
Do you go to any of the shows that they have for old cars?
I used to go to a lot of car shows. In fact, I'm in a club now, what we call the CHVA, Contemporary Historical Vehicle Association. I've been in it since 1980. I went with a friend of mine to a car meeting. He had an antique truck and he wanted me to go with him, so I went to a meeting. We had dinner and everything, talking about cars. And I came back, put an ad into their newsletter I was looking for an antique car. So I got a response from a guy in Cartersville, had a 1930 model Ford, Model A Ford, completely dismantled, and he wanted to sell it. And I went and bought it, hauled it home in buckets, and pickup truck, and everything else, and put it together. And that started me in antique cars.
Oh, okay. Well, you've got quite a collection going all the way back to 1927.
Yeah,
What's your favorite?
the Model A Ford,
Is that right?
31 Model A Ford.
Because that was your first?
No, my first one was a 30 model.
Oh, the 30, okay. But the 31 was,
The 30 was a four-door sedan, and I drove it to a lot of shows. We had what we called a national tour from the car club, which was once a year we'd meet in a certain state or place and tour that whole area. We had 21 chapters in the CHVA over the United States. And we had as many as 40 cars lined up on the road at one time, going someplace. I guess the furthest I drove, the Cabriolet, my wife and I got in it one Sunday morning and headed west. And when we stopped, we was in Colorado Springs. 1,600 mile one way. We toured for a week in Colorado Springs and then drove it back to Georgia.
and it didn't break down on the way?
Didn't break down, everything real smooth. All original, four-cylinder engine, mechanical brakes,
What kind of gas mileage?
no gas mileage. The old car didn't get any gas mileage, about 12, 14 miles was good as you could get. I got a picture on my
On
belt
your
buckle. That's my 31 Ford Cabriolet
Oh, how about that?
with me driving it.
Uh-huh. Well, they may need to take a picture of that later on.
I got some pictures in the car. I should have brought them in.
I think they're gonna want some pictures if you brought them with you. Then let us take a
I
look
couldn't.
at
I couldn't find my old pictures of Acworth. My daughter, she come and got a tub full of them and got about all of them.
them. Well, it sounds like you've enjoyed yourself over the years.
Oh, it's. I've had a good life. Good life.
Well, I think I'm about out of questions. Unless you want to add anything.
Well, like I said in the Acworth magazine, there's no place like Acworth.
That's good. That's great. Well, thank you very much
All right.
for talking.
Can I ask him a question?
Sure.
Mr. Tapp, I've seen a picture, and I can't tell the year, where they used to throw the turkey off the depot. Do you remember anything?
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you-
Turkey trot.
Have you ever had anybody talk about that, Dr. Scott?
No.
Could he talk about that?
I don't remember. You know, I never did go to it, but they had it every year. They had the turkey chase. And about the same time, everybody come to Acworth to buy their supplies for the week. And when you bought something, they'd give you a little ticket. And on Saturday afternoon, Collins furniture place up here, right on the corner, then, they'd have a drawing. And if they called your ticket, you won money. I won it one time, $250. I was getting ready to go on vacation. Man, what a vacation.